koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you. Tough stuff. Any questions? Somebody. Councillor.
Kia ora. I could ask each one of you a question, but I'm trying to work out how to ask this as a question, Chair. Yeah. I guess just to ask, I guess, for your reflections, obviously the youth panel members, you're both new this term. Mother Rainbow there is returning but now retiring, and Josh is new. But yeah, any reflections you have to offer? I guess a similar question to what I asked Barry around, is this what you expected it to be? Has it been better or worse, this experience with us over the last 3 years? Maybe just, and I mean, Teresa has sorry, I want to call you Mother Rainbow again, has obviously the previous term to compare to, but for those of you who are new as well, is this what you signed up for, I guess? Just a quick response maybe from each of you would be great.
I didn't resign.
Yeah, that's true. You are still here. It's a good sign.
Yeah, so Sana and I both came from youth council backgrounds, so that's kind of led us to move forward into the Auckland Council Youth Advisory Panel. My experience has been very positive. It has been very insightful, and like I said before, it's quite a lot to learn, but it's also great to see how many council organisations actually want our advice. So that's been a very warming factor for us, especially the leadership that we've got, not just from each other, but also from our members as well. It's been a very collaborative approach at our panel.
Yeah, very much in agreement with Kritika. I think the two things for me are, number one, a greater appreciation for the complex machinery that this council is. It's massive, it's hard, and it's tough to get things done. So the fact that things are getting done in the way that they are, we are very appreciative of that. I think the other thing is that being in the youth advisory panel, like, young people are not monolithic, right? Like, we don't represent the very diverse views and needs of a lot of young people that aren't represented on our panel. So I think there are a lot of reflections around, we want more young people from a lot more diverse backgrounds to come onto this panel and share their insights, but it also has forced us, and hopefully the council staff that we've interacted with, to zone in and really dial in on the actual needs of young people that are often incredibly unheard and marginalized as well. We hope that's been done, and we aspire for that to continue to happen in a better way. Yeah.
Kia ora. When I grow up, I want to be just like these two. They're amazing, and quite rightly, we need to see more of these faces around this table. And I think part of the work that Josh and I are doing is around some succession planning for the Rainbow community and ensuring that we can keep developing up our young people and those interested in coming on to panels like this. So for me, it's been really amazing. The first season I was on, season 2, was over COVID, and so we met online, and we met online every couple of months. So really, we didn't do much at all, I must say. Hey, John. Sorry, John. But this year has been just hugely different, even from the engagement with the LTP and emergency management, and just the number of workshops and meetings that we've attended and been really respected and involved with. So it really, I think it's very valuable and getting more and more valuable. And a big mihi to Vic, who I think has really pushed for people to come and talk to us and for us to go and talk to people. So, kia ora.
Kia ora anō. It was more than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be a real tick box, to be honest, that we just turn up and be ignored. What I've really recognised is just the value of our voices and the way that you've all listened. And I mean, some of the frustrations are that it's such a slow-moving ship, council, and you might be offering suggestions or advice that takes so long to move. but I don't feel like we were ignored. I feel like that it was listened to, and at the pace that you're able to move, that's what I feel. I mean, there are things that I wish would move quicker, but that's okay. The final thing I'd say is, before I even signed up to do it, I felt like that I had to be a certain kind of rainbow person, or I had to have like a certain lived experience. And then I really realized that really what it requires is that you're just yourself, and that you're enough to be here because you're rainbow, because you're youth, because you're senior, that you don't have to have experience. And I think it would have been really valuable to know from the beginning that I'm enough to be here just because I'm enough. When I reflect on the first time I walked into this room and Mother Rainbow was sick that day, last minute, I came in and then I was talking about Beyonce and I was talking about Family Bar, and I was so nervous to be like talking to like the powers that be. And then I'm like, you're all just community members as well. And my voice is just as important as your voices, isn't it? No, but yeah, and so it's just really nice to know that I am enough, and that's probably something that I'd like to leave with anyone in the future who might want to be on the panels, that you're enough just because you are. Kia ora.
Could I just comment, Chair, before I know we're going to the sector panels shortly, but I feel that Josh's finish up there was perfect. And I remember when you came and spoke to us that first time and you were really nervous and you were dressed so dapper and you talked to us about unicorns. Do you remember that? And I think it's really appropriate that you've finished up there with that final comment for the advisory panels, and it's been wonderful to watch you grow in the role. So kia ora, and looking forward to Priscilla. So, yeah.
Kia ora, no, thank you, Councillor Ferry, and yeah, thank you both. It's great for the Youth Advisory Panel to give us the need for vision and the need to make sure that we are celebrating the city in a way that makes you want to live and stay here, because there is so much good about it, and sometimes we just don't talk about it. And for my Rainbow Panel homies, as I think the only, or maybe the only one who talks about it, Rainbow Panel person on the governing body, it's been, it has been a hard term, as you've said, Teresa. It has been probably, testing me as, especially a dad now, of what this kind of hate train that's coming at us really means for our communities. And I know different parts of all the panels here experience different forms of hate, but it does feel like it is a bit of a freight train at the moment. So it's been nice to come and sit with you and understand how we navigate that, and also hear from different parts of the community, as you say, Josh, with different experiences, that the little bits that we can do as a council to help. We can't do everything, but I do want to acknowledge the mayor too. He rang me from the Blues game on the day that horrendous attack of Destiny Church on our Rainbow community, but also on our librarians. And he was at a rugby game, and he said, "What can I do? Do I need to put a statement? Do I need to?" Yeah, I won't say all the swear words he said, but the mayor was really keen to understand what we wanted him to do before he did anything, and I thought that was really important. And he was instantly got his office and to put out a statement and to show that he was standing alongside you. So I think it's fantastic to have your voices in helping us to understand what's going on too. So kia ora. Well, I will get you all to move away, but I think that's been really enlightening to have our advisory panel speak to us. And I know we still have more panels to go. I hope that you can all stay till the end. I'm not sure if some of you have to leave, but yeah. Right, I think we have, sorry. Oh, kia ora team. Oh, can we just grab a photo with everyone before you leave? Sorry. I know we've got some more panels to go, but it might be a good idea for a quick toilet stop and a quick photo with anyone before anyone leaves. So anyone who would like a photo with everyone will come up towards you. Right, we'll get City Centre Advisory Panel members to come to the table.
Yeah.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Patrick. Kia ora, Jamie.
Kia ora.
Natalie. We'll try and get everyone back to the table. It's a bit like the end of school term if you can't kind of feel the vibe.
Yeah, I want to see you put the chairs up on the tables afterwards.
All right, we'll come back to some semblance of order. Ding, ding. Thank you. Right, who's going to kick off on this one? Patrick. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. First, I'd like to extend apologies from our chair, Scott Pritchard, who is overseas, so couldn't be here today. And to thank you, Chair, the Mayor and governing body for this opportunity to report in from the City Centre Advisory Panel. We are a diverse cross-sector group and have had a very intense term with a lot of action and change in the city centre. The city centre, as currently defined, is a mere 4.5 square kilometres, yet delivers 20% of regional GDP. It is the biggest concentration of employment, tertiary education and hospitality excellence in the entire nation. People come from across the whole region to work, learn and play here daily. It is the centre for all of Auckland. It is also singular. It is the most important small area at the heart of the most important region economically. It enjoys unique pressures and offers unique opportunities. The panel advises on direction for the city centre and on spending the city centre targeted rate, which is paid by commercial, residential and residential property owners, and is a key way to unlock extra value from general rate investment and other sources like the National Land Transport Fund. The panel has had 6 key focus areas this term, which are all in the report. Here I will highlight just the most important ones. Safety and community wellbeing has been a huge focus of our attention and investment this term. While not a core role for us, we've had to step up to meet an urgent demand. We have invested in the expansion of the Safety Wardens program, in homelessness outreach, and in late night safety zones. We have seen positive reductions in crime through this work. We have written to you and the government on rough sleeping and support your actions in this urgent area. The need for investment is in permanent solutions, not just moving the problem around. Enabling the urban population to grow. Currently at around 40,000 people, we see great value in helping that to grow to over around 100K in time. we commissioned a report on the costs and benefits of increased city centre living, which showed that adding these new residents is, and I quote Shamabel Ecob, a free hit in terms of public infrastructure cost. The capacity is already there. The contrast with the costs of continued sprawl to your budgets is enormous. Integrated transport networks. Aside from the frustrations that we see in inefficient delivery, the panel consistently supports the improvements in public transport, walking and bike infrastructure and services in the city centre. Frustration has been high, especially with what we see as City Rail Link Limited's refusal to deliver the return of city streets to usability with sufficient urgency. Not a KPI for them, apparently. Thankfully, this is nearly over. We support the city centre bus plan and look forward to buses being almost entirely concentrated on the 4 designated bus arterials this year. How Northwestern Busway buses will be routed through the city area is an area of ongoing concern, and what replaces light rail is also an issue for the city centre. Enhancing vibrancy and experience. People's relation to city centres and retail in general has been significantly affected by COVID and new technologies. We know that successful city centres are those that actively compete as unique destinations of choice, as they no longer have the same volumes of captive daily workers arriving. This is the big opportunity. The city centre needs to be safe, vibrant, relevant, and above all, exciting to compete with visitors and talent from the whole city, the wider country, and overseas. Our aim is to make Auckland a must-see destination for international visitors to the wider region, and this will not happen by accident. Last year, we pivoted spending much more into activation and visitor attraction for this very reason, in part also because of a reduction in investment in these areas by government and council itself. We are very pleased to see a renewed commitment from you to funding Tātaki. We need their work. We acknowledge Council's recent decision regarding an events underwrite facility, and we strongly support the introduction of a bed night levy to fund destination activity. I hope the Mayor heard that. The city centre is at a really critical point. It's poised. We know that the city centre's economy is more volatile than almost anywhere else. It has low lows and high highs. And right now, when the macroeconomic scene returns to growth, we need to be ready to supercharge the opportunities offered by the completion of once-in-a-generation investments in the City Rail Link and the Convention Centre. The advisory panel is really mindful of this need. We are looking forward to what's next for the city centre. So after a thorough analysis and process, we strongly endorse the extension of the city centre targeted rate from the current 2031 end date out another 5 years to 2036. There is much more to do, and general rates will not suffice. The city centre targeted rate is an important mechanism to support the powerhouse economic engine of the region and its symbolic centre. Public improvements are needed in more areas, the Arts Quarter and Victoria Quarter, for example, while giving the areas around the CRL stations a good rest. We strongly support the continued implementation of the City Centre Master Plan. The next few years, we have focused on creating compelling experiences that draw people to the city centre from near and far, with significant investments in the arts, culture, events and experiences. We are making the most of the unique cultural stories and competitive advantages to attract visitors and entice them to linger in our new city. With big shows and festivals supported by marketing campaigns, we have progressed a number of strategic initiatives like the Auckland by Night Action Plan, and are partnering with universities on enhancing the student experience, as building the city's reputation as a safe but also fun and exciting place for students and other young people is of huge benefit. We've endorsed this approach, and the decision about the extension will rest with the governing body in the new term through the annual plan or the LTP. We encourage you to support this new approach, which we believe best meets the needs of the city centre into the future. Ngā mihi nui. And I apologise for not bringing any jewellery.
Kia ora. Thank you. Very good rundown on a very, could have gone a lot further, I know. Are there any questions? Councillor Sayers.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. I think you mentioned there, like you're looking for significant investment to attract people, and particularly around the arts and culture side. Could you just clarify, so I understand, is that beyond MOTAT and museum, Maritime Museum as attractions, or are they ideas on top of those, facilities?
Yeah, absolutely. We mean the arts in the broadest sense, so performing arts as well. So this is how city centres work now. They have to be destinations for a purpose, and they need a unique selling point. And this is where the biggest and most interesting events occur, and this is where the hospitality to support that is. And it also, of course, the thing about a centre is that it's just a geometric fact. It's the closest place to everywhere. It isn't the closest place to, you know what I mean, it's averaged. And also, it is also where public transport, for example, is focused and is most effective. So we can most move the most people to these events and get the most out of them, and get that concentrated sense of vibrance and excitement that great cities have.
And just to give the opportunity, because the Mayor might have been a little bit distracted, could some of that be funded through the bed levy? Is that your thinking?
Yeah, we strongly support the bed levy, and you'll work to persuade that lot to allow it.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Sayers. Councillor Ferry, and then Mayor Brown.
Kia ora. Thank you very much, and I've enjoyed watching along with your panel meetings when I've been able to make it. I thought it would be useful for governing body members to have a little bit of an expansion from you on the role of the City Centre Advisory Panel in relation to the City Centre targeted rate. Like, what does that actually look like in practice? Because certainly as a ward councillor, that was something I didn't have a lot of awareness with before I started watching your meetings. And I think that's important for people to understand that that targeted rate is often what funds a lot of those improvements in the city centre, but it also has your oversight as the advisory panel. So I wondered if you could speak to that. Thanks.
Well, we are advisory, so we can only advise what you do with the targeted rate. That's the formal answer to that. But we intensely, very, very closely follow and put very specific advice forward. And this term in particular, we moved a whole lot of funding away from CapEx to OpEx because of a desperate need. This is a burning platform, the current economy, and we're just doing everything we can. Also, the slashing of marketing funds, we really felt we're missing out on acts that are coming to Australia. They're not coming across to Auckland because of lack of support. We are completely bewildered that the government didn't make sure America's Cup happened. They would get all of that money back in GST. The tragedy for us in this room is, of course, we don't have that immediate payback mechanism that they do. When there's more spending in Auckland, Wellington, central government immediately gets 15%. The rates income doesn't go up, right? So properly, they should be really funding this Auckland as the gateway to the whole country. But one of our really big interests is we want that kind of marketing to not simply treat Auckland as passing through to Queenstown or Rotorua. We need Auckland to be a destination itself, and including the city centre, and getting out to the Hauraki Golf and the other wonders of our city. But in terms of the staff are amazing. We get very intense options, spreadsheets for spending the targeted rate, how best to unlock other funding sources to amplify it is a really critical thing. I think this is a good moment to thank staff for their work, Simon and Natalie and others who've been fantastic. Yeah, it's a sizable sum of money. It makes a big difference. It can mean projects actually happen because we're putting in, say, a third. There's another third from general rates, and then something that otherwise couldn't be funded gets going.
Thank you very much. Mayor Brown.
Okay, thanks. I probably should declare a little bit of interest here because I, in fact, regularly attended the City Centre Advisory Group. And thank you for the work that you do. And I acknowledge that Jamie, beside you, Patrick, is the CEO of the Karangahape Road Business Association, and it's been important that we see the city as not just the bottom of Queen Street, but it's the T that goes up Queen Street and turns and at the top of K Road. So thanks for that. With regard to the bed night levy, the pressure is on the government to do something, and I am told that there is an imminent announcement of some central funding to do big events. The trouble with that is that we pay 40% of the tax, so it's our tax coming back to us, but we'll probably find we won't get 40% of that. The thing about the bed night levy is that people who fund that don't live in Auckland, because we're already here. We don't necessarily stay in hotels. There's a complete misunderstanding of this. They're going to rob us to give it back to us and other people, whereas we were going to have this funded by people who visited, which is a much different thing. And so we're all conditions to have Stockholm syndrome here, so we thank anything that comes. But when something else comes, just think about it again. The reason it hasn't come so far is the ACT Party said no new taxes, and it's not a tax, but in fact if they're going to give us a grant it will be from taxes, so it is a tax. And the National Party said that they're worried about the cost of living crisis, so they're going to tax us to cover the cost of living crisis. It makes no sense. The bed night levy comes from people who aren't worried about the cost of living crisis. People with a cost of living crisis don't have $500 to watch Taylor Swift and don't stay in 5-star hotels. They don't even come here. And I don't want to rate strugglers for people to fund something that they won't go to, but apparently it's going to be okay to tax them to do that, even when we're told it's not a tax. So when this comes, have some thought about it. You know, we're not supposed to look the gift horse in the mouth, but sometimes the horse needs dropping. I think one of the things that if I'm still the mayor, I think would be worth doing, and even if I'm still not the mayor, I'd still be a person who lives in the city, is that we need to have a review of the city centre master plan, because it's quite old, and we've already discussed the other day that something that was approved in 2020 took its first steps 5 years later today. And so I think we need to have another look at this. We've got AT coming back to the council, and it has had a big impact on the city. Not all of it good, not all of it bad either. Mixture. But I think we want to have another short about those things. So I'm wanting you guys to, if possible, let me know if you're keen to have a say, because I think that's a very important thing. And it's important that we remind everybody that it's Queen Street and K Road and the associated places, aren't it? The bit about the free run from Shimabile Equab said about housing in the city, we've already got all the infrastructure anyhow. And at the moment we've got some politicians wanting us to build out in Pukekohe so that they can get re-elected in Epsom. That makes no sense to me at all. And we are going to put some pressure on the government. I think it's going to cave in on the seismic rules, which is what's making it very hard to convert empty offices into apartments. I haven't heard anybody, and you can confirm this please, who has not said that more people living in the city has benefits in every way and no drawbacks. I think you'd agree with that?
Strongly.
Okay. So I just wanted to add that bit into the thing. I think it's an important job you're doing. Sadly, there's no press here today. because, there's a bit of good news, but it's a bad thing. I think that we need to more publicise the good work that comes out of your outfit. And as far as the council officers, I've funded a lot of them out of the mayor's budget. And so, but I can't do that forever. So there you go. Thanks for being here and thanks for the work.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you, Mayor. Councillor Williamson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to explore with you the city centre from the perspective of people who live in a remote part of the city. We live way out east across the river. I have noticed over many years that so many more of the people, I was a constituent MP and so on, just saying, I won't go into the city anymore. It's just become so awful in there in terms of the Queen Street being blocked off from cars, you can't even drive down bits of it. And so I thought, well, maybe it's only just us. But I've looked at the numbers and I see the number of shop vacancies in Queen Street at, well, right at 13% of the shops in Queen Street are vacant. And I hear more and more plans to close off more lanes. And there was a really good example very recently. If you come out of the council building and into Federal Street and head along to Victoria, a new big cycleway was put in there. And what it meant was just unbelievable traffic delays for cars trying to get along Federal Street, turn into Victoria. And I said, what on earth was the reasoning for this, given that I've hardly ever seen a cyclist on it? And I went to AT and I said, why did you do this? And they said, oh, we were directed by the Central City Master Plan to do this. So there's clearly a drop in the number of people coming to the city. I don't think that can be debated. You might debate it, but I don't think you can. When you're building your city centre master plan, are you taking into account the changes you are making are turning away a huge number of people from the suburbs from coming here?
Well, firstly, we disagree with that analysis.
The numbers show you're getting more?
No, we're not. I'm not saying I disagree with the numbers. I disagree with your link to causality. You make two statements and then you say that they are causative. So in other words, the one cycleway that's east-west in the city centre somehow has caused people to not come from Pakuranga into the city centre. Yet, and shop vacancies, yeah, retail is in an enormous crisis. There's shop vacancies in St Luke's Mall. Ponsonby Road and Newmarket are having huge vacancy problems, and they are nothing but 6 lanes of traffic. There is weak evidence to connect changes for drivers in the city centre and changes in retail space. This is not proven. And retail all over is under enormous powerful changes, especially from the internet. So, for example, we have 3 long-standing fashion stores on Ponsonby Road closed in the last couple of months. And one of them, Zambezi, they've kept their city centre store, they've closed their Ponsonby Road store. And I spoke to Neville, who's on our panel, and he said, oh, my biggest store is the internet. This is what's happening with retail. And if we're not accurate about the problems, if we see one thing and see another thing and decide that they must be causally linked without really carefully examining that, we can come up with the wrong solutions.
Yeah, okay. I didn't say I had come up with that. I said a huge number of people in my electorate raise it with me, that we won't go into town anymore. It's so confusing. We've been fined for driving down a street we always used to drive down, and now we know we're not allowed to. And frankly, in the end, it's just not worth going in. I get that, and if you're a member of Parliament, a constituent MP for a long time, and now a councillor, it's quite regular wherever you go, walking your dog or going to the supermarket, people want to tell you things. I get that over and over again.
So the competitive advantage that suburban malls have is free and abundant parking, and people can choose to go to them.
They've got 3 car parks.
That's right.
All the cars here.
The competitive advantage of the city centre is its unique offer, and people will find a way there. They will use your new busway, for example. They will do all sorts of things. There are 50,000 car parking spaces in the city centre, and they are not even expensive, and they're certainly not full. So if people want to come here, if the attraction is big enough, and we can prove this, for example, recently Smith and Coe's, closed its doors, but it had a sale. Suddenly, absolutely full. When the offer was enticing enough, people get there. So, again, I can understand people out in the exurbs not wanting to drive in long distances or pay for parking. If that's their preference, that's a perfectly reasonable preference. We don't have to.
Well, they used to.
They may be used to. The retail is the most visible and really important, and it's a visible thing. But the economy of the city centre has grown 25% in the last 5 years. It is not dying. Generally, the people that have opinions about it's so terrible in the city centre don't come. I mean, these are... If people want to stay in the burbs, they should.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. I wonder if you would like to comment, or that of the K Road Business Association, on how important it is for this council to keep the venues that we have really vital. So, the Q theatres, these ones, they've had difficulties in recent times, and it's, probably some sitting around the table here would say that they're not paying their way. But what part do they play, the actual event space and the theatres and so forth, in creating that vitality that you talk of?
Yeah, thank you. Events in the arts, and I'll even extend that to marketing the city, are absolutely vital. They're not a nice to have, they're absolutely essential. I think Auckland has been outspent and outmarketed by such illustrious centres as Hobart and Christchurch over the past few years, and that's something we really need to fix. I think welcome the news that the St James is going to be functioning again. That's fantastic. Q Theatre's fantastic. When there's an event, even something down at Spark or Mount Eden or anything like that, the whole city lifts from that. All the hospitality lifts from that. It's a night and day difference in terms of how the city centre functions when the arts scene is healthy and pumping and functioning. So yeah, it's incredibly important.
Thank you for that encouragement.
Yeah, can I just add that we strongly support the special entertainment area overlay idea. I don't know if this has come to you, Richard, through the planning committee. There's a group called the Independent Music Venues Association, and they've put forward a planning change, and I think it was first proposed in Christchurch, but it's also somehow coming through the works here. Maybe Megan knows about it. It sets out, you have specific areas that have, one thing is noise limits. So you can't have somebody suddenly turn up next to a venue that's been there for 30 years and live in an apartment and then try to close down the venue because it's too loud. So it's just a way of encouraging specific areas to keep those businesses, yeah.
Future-proofing them in the same way that Legacy Auckland City had an arts precinct for that, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. Just following up on what Councillor Williamson was just saying, I have to agree with him that a lot of people in our community, and I've got family that live out west as well, and so I hear a lot of people all over Auckland saying that coming down, into Queen Street or coming down into the CBD used to be a real pleasure, and they used to really enjoy coming in. And most people, if they're wanting to wine and dine in some of our fine dining restaurants, which we have got some very good ones, they just find it really, really difficult now, and it's just, they can't be bothered, and they just go somewhere in their own communities now, and that seems to be what's happening. And no, well, I'm being honest and truthful here, but do you think you want a question, do you? Yeah,
I just want to be clear that this is an advisory board. The City Centre Master Plan that Cycleway Councillor Williamson spoke about, he voted for, we all voted for that funding in the first year of this term. We just need to make sure that the actions have actually been all of us and they're advising us on these issues. But go back to...
Yeah, well, I guess the advisory panel are also wanting to hear from us because they're advising us and we want to just give them a bit of advice of what we think might be the right thing, you know, and it's just that, you know, a lot of people don't actually like getting public transport. If they're fine dining, they're all done up and they're all looking beautiful like Desley. And, and you know, people don't want to catch a bus. Well, okay, and you too. But people don't want to catch a bus and they don't want to get a train and they want to feel safe. And most people do actually want to drive a car and park somewhere. And we've had a lot of parking taken away, like downtown, a lot of parking taken away. And the one thing, because you're wanting a bit of, you're advising us and you're wanting us to listen to you and maybe us give you some ideas too to make it better. You know, one of the things that most people really, really don't like is they can't drive down Queen Street now. They get people do, and then they get a ticket. They'll never come back again. And, you know, and I know that Councillor Williamson and I think the Mayor one day, they got a little bit confused and lost in driving around because everything...
We just need a question to the...
No, but I'm it's a bit of a question, but I'm also... It's one of my last times I'll ever be talking to the advisory panel. Thank you.
Maybe I could take this one. I think what you're saying is entirely true. It's something that I hear a lot from people as well. And Queen Street isn't my patch, so I can speak freely about it without getting too hung up on it. It feels to me like we are a little bit punch drunk with reconstruction and disruption, and we're staggering our way towards hopefully a future that's gonna hum, and we're not there yet. So if we're playing rope-a-dope, we're in round 6, and we're hoping for a railway to open in round 7, because that's how many years we've been waiting for it to kind of take place. I think I think it's partly the growing pains of the city is that we're becoming a real city with a city rail link and with all the ferry links and the improved busways, with the success of the Northern Express and with the Northwestern now started and more in the pipeline. We need more of it, and we need it fast, and we need to have these construction projects delivered a hell of a lot quicker in the future, because we can't go through what we've been through again. Yeah, so what you're saying is not untrue.
Well, thank you for that. Just one last thing. I've also got family that live in the city, and they do love it. They live in the Pacifica on the 38th floor. Okay, and so people like that do like to like being in the CBD, and they can walk there. But it's for all the other people, and you need more than just the people that are living in the city. You need everybody, and visitors from overseas. You need everybody wanting to feel as if they can get there.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, team. Just a quick question. How listened to do you feel? In other words, how successful do you feel your advocacy is?
By this body?
I think you advise...
By this person.
No. Okay, it's not a trap. I didn't mean it like that. But I actually was trying to say, you know, you obviously are an advisory group to us and to what you would think the business associations themselves, the people who actually put the funding in to do what you want, right? Heart of the City, K Road Business Association, etc. do you feel that it's a worthwhile thing to be in? I mean, do you feel that you're listened to? I mean, it's the same question I really asked all the other advisory groups. Is there
Is it value for money?
Well, is it value for money? Is it, do you feel that you get a report back on your success? Is there a closing of the loop? That's kind of...
I mean, it's tremendous value for money because we're pro bono. No, we do. We do feel largely listened to. We also have a very diverse group, which is very unified, and there's a great deal of learning from each other, which I think is extremely valuable. Yeah. Jamie can answer more.
Yeah, I think we are all volunteers, so we are advising council on how to spend roughly $25 million out of I think the total rates take for our 4.5 square kilometres is something like $200 million. So we're kind of saying, hey, here's how you might want to spend 10% of what you're deploying from this area for the benefit of this area. So it's certainly really helpful for me. The other thing is you're sitting up here speaking for the panel, but you've got 2 members of the panel here. It's a very broad group of people with, sometimes we have some great fights. It's really good fun. In terms of different points of view, you know, Heart of the City, the universities, Sky City, key property groups like Precinct and Britomart. Yeah, so it's a really, of course, the city centre residents group as well. All got different perspectives. So our function is to hash things out and then give the best advice we can to this governing panel. So I don't feel like it's a waste of time. I feel like it's really productive use of time. So,
thank you, Councillor Dalton. Okay, Councillor Lee.
Yeah, I spoke earlier today in regard to a completely different item on the question of how much we spend on different projects. And the point I made is spending the money is one thing, but ensuring we get a good outcome from that spend is actually more important than the quantity of the money. And in terms of what's going on in the city centre, however you spin it, what is happening there is not good. 98 of our fellow Aucklanders lost their job at Smith & Coe's, and I knew some of those people, and they loved working there, and they lost their job. I don't know how that impacts their lives, but obviously not very good. 1 in 8 shops is vacant. The situation is not getting any better. There's a store on the corner of Wellesley and Queen opposite the former Smith & Coe's, which once would have been an ideal position, and that's going out of business. A young Chinese guy who owns it, Andy Young, said to me when I asked him, "Are you guys paying the targeted rate?" And he said, "Of course." But some of us think with the targeted rate, we're paying for a hitman, and the hitman is coming after us. So I think we need to listen to the people who actually work on the street rather than people who are somewhat aloof and attached and have political views on how, you know, the city should be run. It's the people who work there we should be listening to, and the results of the spend was what we should be very concerned about in the next term. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I just have one last question for you all, and I do attend as many of your meetings as I can. How do we get sort of, because we do hear things that are not true. I mean, last year we reported that the 2 previous years, the city centre outpaced GDP and employment growth of the whole country, like by quite some margin. Obviously, we're in a long tail of a recession, but that, and the AT sat here a couple of weeks ago and said, we are seeing overwhelmingly more people coming into the city centre now than before, but just not as often. So the HOP data and everything shows people coming in here, buses, trains and ferries, is overwhelmingly higher. We had at Councillor Henderson's CCO committee the other day, record numbers through the gallery, record numbers through the theatres, but just not as many events, sadly. And the Writers' Festival also massive record numbers through there too, so people can obviously get here. How do you feel we can either talk about the city centre, or how do we reframe what's being heard? Because I think someone said it, that often people complain about the city centre but may not have even been here for a long time. So is there any advice to us or people talking about where you work and live, how we can get the messages that are actually true in a positive sense, if we weren't in a nationwide recession, to kind of get the groove back?
Yeah, unfortunately, especially in today's shattered media market, complaint seems to get the most attention. And it's an easy trope, and it's an international one. You'll find cities all over the world where people complain, no one goes to the city centre anymore, it's too crowded, or other, logical solipsisms like that. We definitely need a better story. I mean, the stories are there. There's a lot of needlessly negative press. I mean, it strikes me that so much attention on the construction disruption of the CRL, and partly I think that's because it's the only visible bit of it. If it was a bridge rather than a tunnel, people would be talking about that as well. And very soon that story is going to be completely inverted. So yeah, I do think there's a messaging problem, but this also comes back to funding for events and marketing. People do have extraordinary experiences in the city centre that they cannot get anywhere else, and that is its USP. It is not as easy to drive to as everywhere else. And I will remind everyone here that the most successful part of the city centre is downtown, so north of Custom Street, and that is the place where you know, the bollards everywhere, New Square that blocked off the whole of Queen Street. There is the connection between ease of parking and financial success is almost inverse. So, but I will say that there's one thing, Councillor Stewart, that I strongly agree with, which is confusion. I don't think Auckland Transport have been at all clear in where you can't drive. Whereas take Omititanga, for example, where there are bollards, you physically can't take your car there. No one is getting a ticket for driving there. The vagueness of it isn't clear. People aren't used to it. However, we all must remember that we are very used to managing streets by category, by mode. For example, motorways you can only use in a motor vehicle, and that's very clearly understood. We do this, we do manage space, and we should, because what's the valuable economic unit in the city centre are humans on foot. Speeding through spends nothing. So, but how it's done is critically important, and I don't think it's been done well in Queen Street, south of Custom Street at all.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Lots to think about, and a significant part of what we do in this place. And thank you to all your members for the volunteering time, and also trying to bring the voices of the members and people connected to you through you at those meetings, because I can see how conflicting it is sometimes when you're trying to bring positive and also solutions and problems and challenges through those committees, with quite different voices around the table. So, kia ora. Right, we're going to jump into our Rural Advisory Panel, and Andy would like to lead off as the team are coming up.
Yep, just as Alan Cole and Dave Wanderup, and we've got Leanne online, thank you very much. I note that Alan hasn't bought any rural produce, so I'm anticipating that in line with what's happened earlier, he is going to be singing. But look, absolute privilege to be the chair of the Rural Advisory Panel, following on from my old mates Des Morrison and Bill Cashmore. And so I'll leave it to them. I haven't spoken to either of them about what they're going to say, and I have absolute trust. And but just want to acknowledge Warren McLennan, who was the staff member who left towards the end of earlier this year, who'd been looking after the Rural Advisory Panel since day dot, pretty much. And then Dave and Bertie and everyone else who stepped in, and everyone else that have looked after the panel this year. So Alan, Leanne, thanks very much for taking on today, and look forward to your song, Old Man Cobb.
Leanne's online is going to speak to our report, and then we'll take questions. Thank you.
Kia ora tātou. Apologies for not being there in person, but I've had a touch of the flu, so that's something that probably you wouldn't want me to share with you. Just on behalf of the Rural Advisory Panel, I first of all want to thank Auckland Council for the opportunity the panel provides, the support from the staff, and acknowledge Mayor Brown for continuing the RAP in this last term. Just on behalf of the panel members, I also want to acknowledge our chair, Councillor Andy, he's wonderful, and the Deputy Chair, Alan. It's a very good panel to be a part of, and there is a lot of value for it in us. One of the things that we want to also acknowledge is that Auckland, iconically known for this large urban centre, but actually has a very large rural area, of which the panel is there representing. We do help provide the rural perspective to Auckland Council, and we've appreciated the ability to be informed by the different teams at Auckland Council on the range of work that's happening on things that affect our rural communities and our rural sector. We think the Rural Advisory Panel will be of special value to Auckland Council in the next term, given the many central government reforms, such as the Resource Management Act and that whole suite, that have a direct impact on our rural sector. And we do look forward to being able to help provide some perspective and view to help Auckland Council with their thinking and understanding that we can then bring back to our communities about how Auckland Council are approaching these things. So to support this, the Rural Advisory Panel has suggested the group could be used in the next term if it's continued, not just for information sharing as it has been, but really make use of the expertise and perspectives that we have around the table. So some more workshop style discussions on matters of relevance. We can use the Rural Advisory Panel for out-of-cycle meeting matters where appropriate, and that might be something that is of value given that the central government submission and consultation periods might not fit in line with the Rural Advisory Panel regular meeting cycle. So we would like to encourage the council to think about how they could use that panel to support them in their work. We also would like to be able to bring along some additional expertise or advice when appropriate. So this could be either industry representatives if they're not already there, growers, scientists, technical support where needed, and panel members are very happy to be able to facilitate that. The above suggestions really are just to ensure that the expertise and experience of the Rural Advisory Panel members is drawn on to help inform Auckland Council. We acknowledge that we're there in an advisory capacity, but we also acknowledge that we do represent a wide range of people across the whole rural area. And I just wanted to note that I really liked the Ethnic Community Advisory Panel's feedback loop suggestion. I think that would be something that would be of benefit to a lot of the other panels as well. And I probably just a reflection after listening to the other panels, Auckland Council really has a unique asset in the range of diverse community panels that come here that can help present information, provide insight into the challenges and views, and really help Auckland Council with their thinking. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I feel you guys have a really good asset in the diverse range of panels that you have. Thank you.
Good, Leanne, that's awesome. Thanks very much. Succinct and clear. Any question? Oh, sorry, Alan.
Just also like to acknowledge the unsealed road program up in Rodney. That's been will be a real benefit to rural stakeholders up there, particularly around dust issues up there. So we really acknowledge council coming to the party and putting on, and especially Councillor Sayers here and driving that for our Rodney members. The other thing is the other thing that's probably is going to be coming is a septic tank plan change. So again, another one of those things that we want to be clearly involved in early. One of our frustration has been this term is with the freshwater rollout and council's employing of a contractor from outside our region, which was really frustrating for us as rural stakeholders in dealing with that. And we would implore council to use people who actually locally and know our systems and our places. So just point that out. But we are really, this panel's been going since the ARC days, and I think that should be acknowledged that the council carry this on, and we see huge benefit working with council. We also note that the unitary plan will be coming up for review in this next term, and we'd just like to note that on the rural side of things, when we did do the unitary plan, I don't think there was hardly any appeals by the rural sector on that unitary plan, apart from subdivision provisions, because we actually worked together to come with some common sense rules that all rural sector and council could work together going forward. So just acknowledge that and point that out. Thank you.
Sure, Alan. No, thank you. And I was going to, and we'll go straight to my question, because you did start on the MPS freshwater stuff, largely because of so much government change as well. And often I find when Andy and all of us can sort of agree, not the middle ground, that's probably weakening the position we all have, but often what council was doing to you or the rural communities is often to the lowest common denominator. Like it can feel like or seem like an attack, but it's actually a rule or a structure being put in place into the small number of whoever not doing, and that's like any part of the city, I guess. How do you see into the next, for whoever's here next term, that we get ahead of that, work with you on messaging, Andy's given some good advice, but maybe Leanne or Alan, how do we get to a case, if it is the unitary plan review, that we are able to tell that story that congratulations to everyone who's doing this amazing work, and this regulation or something is for the others or whatever, because I feel it can become an urban-rural quite quickly.
Just interesting, this week I was out on Bombay Hill with AT and Healthy Waters, and one of the key things there was we do have bad eggs, and it's about peer pressure from the industries. The growers up there are frustrated with one grower. Luckily, he's stopping. But I think we recognise that there will need to be a bit of stick, but we just want to be more collaborative going forward, because we get, the growers up there are really quite frustrated, particularly on the hill, with the lack of maintenance around drains, and then it was all being blamed on them. But on that visit for me, it was very interesting, but the blame wasn't all them, and it was lack of maintenance in the drains and capacities at times, then that was hitting their fields, and then it was really growing the problem. So it was really good to see everybody there, and as I've spoken to Councillor Baker, that's a good example that we potentially could do something like on Pookie Hill, where we all come together and do a whole lot of improvements to stop flooding so that we don't have onions going down our main streets of Pukekohe, for example. And through the anniversary event, it was proven all the work that everybody had done, we actually stopped the major flooding in Pukekohe. There was only probably one road that flooded, if that's a good example.
No, kia ora. And anything?
Yeah, I might just follow up with that. I think it starts with just building understanding and actually knowing what it is that is happening. As Alan points out, most people are doing the right thing and trying to do the right thing. So often when some changes might come out, what you really need to recognise is if you're wanting to get everybody on board on the same waka, people that are not following or they're leading the whole industry down are not actually that helpful for the general grower or the general primary industry that you might be trying to make rules for. So I would encourage you to come out to have staff come out and talk and work closer, because a lot of the time, a lot of the rural constituents have very good ideas about how you can get good alignment and get people on board the journey. And often I have found in my experience, I work across 5 regions, it can be quite eye-opening about how much work and how ahead a lot of people actually are on this journey. So one thing I can speak on behalf of growers in particular, they're very proactive, they're very aware. They want to be able to work with and collaborate with, and they want to be able to do the right thing, but also have Auckland Council understand what they're doing and understand their story. So working closer would be really, really good.
Awesome, that's good feedback, and I agree on the visits. I think Franklin, me personally, I've had the most visits out of anyone, out of any board from both Bill and Andy and the local board over time. So it is a really helpful thing for people to do. Councillor Ferry.
Kia ora, thank you. I've really enjoyed popping into the panel on a few occasions, sitting in the back and listening in, because it's such a different perspective. I just wondered if there was anything in particular that you wanted to make sure that, you know, I guess in a minute or less maybe, that us urban councillors understood about the different reality for rural areas, and so we can reflect on that in our role, because I've really enjoyed, I went out and did a tour of Franklin with Angela Full-James, went up and did the bus tour with Greg and the local board up in Rodney as well. You know, Waiheke, Waitakere Ranges, they both have rural areas as well. So it is something that, you know, sometimes we miss around the table. So is there sort of one takeaway that you could maybe, you know, what would you hit us with as a takeaway for the urban councillors to understand about the realities for the rural parts of our region, because we are regional councillors?
Get your gumboots on and come out on the farm, and we'll show you practical things that we're doing to improve the environment. As simple as that. Even pink ones are welcome.
Kia ora, thanks. Leanne, did you?
Yes, I have pink gumboots, so yes, they're more than welcome, and I've never been shamed off a farm for my pink gummies yet. No, one thing, it actually came up in another region, but a grower said to me once, sometimes urban based councillors or urban based constituents or population forget that the rural needs are their needs, and they won't realise that until they can't access what they need to get at the shops. And I say that because in Pukekohe, that's a nationally significant growing area. Domestic functions in terms of like produce for the whole country. Most of the vegetables grown in around New Zealand are primarily for the domestic market. So it's probably just to remember that the rural needs are the urban needs, but you might not see the impacts of their pressures immediately. Doesn't mean that you should not listen or not be aware of that.
Kia ora, thank you both.
Thank you. Councillor Sayers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thanks for your presentation there, and thanks, Alan. I just want to thank you for mentioning the Unsealed Road Improvement Program, but that is a regional budget. So Franklin, Waitax, the Gulf Islands, as well as Rodney, all getting some benefit out of that, and that really only got through with the support of the Budget Committee and the governing body. So, you know, I want to acknowledge that, and the Mayor's efforts there as well, Your Worship, so thank you for that. Leanne and Councillor Perry, thank you so much for your question. It was basically going to be mine, so I might just try and elaborate on that and give Leanne and Alan a little bit more of a chance to answer, because councillors might not put their gumboots on and they might not travel out there next term. We don't know who will be around the table necessarily. And that quick synopsis you gave about the importance of the food bowl was very, very helpful. I'm sure, you know, that resonated with a lot of councillors. Going forward next term, I think, you know, are there some other channels that perhaps we could do, like what you've just told us in front of us collectively, may have been the first time some councillors might have heard that. So maybe it's a rhetorical question, but maybe next term we need to just do a better job of socialising the rural advisory panels and its work, because there's a lot of positive work going on there, but also just the whole helping people understand the rural environment there. And I don't know if you wanted to comment on that or had any ideas or thoughts.
Councillor Sayers.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation there, and thanks, Alan. The I just want to comment on that or had any ideas or thoughts.
Yeah, I see this across a number of areas, but I think the challenge is greatest in Auckland, and maybe the last round of central government submissions was probably quite eye-opening and part of the reason why we've suggested maybe out-of-cycle meetings where it's needed. Some of what might go through in Auckland Council's thinking might not necessarily be in line with how a rural constituent in the area might think or feel. So short of being able to get out to the rural areas, if that is something that isn't that possible, there are lots of events that a lot of our industries do. We did a combined industry deep dive, and I would welcome then if we're able to do something like that again, opening that up to councillors, you'd be very welcome to come down. That would be really helpful. But short of that, perhaps the views that we're bringing forward just recognise the fact that it's a unique opportunity for council that does have a lot of pressure and visibility in that urban space. Really do try and make proactive use of trying to glean the views out, even if it's just to build a bit of understanding, because that is a really big challenge, and I don't envy you in that challenge up in Auckland to a certain extent. But I am also very mindful of especially the growers that I represent, and then the other communities that the other panel members represent, that just getting the message about who we are, what we do, and having that understood before those positions are formed could be really beneficial, and that would help people feel actively listened to. And that might be really helpful for Auckland Council going forward for when, like Alan pointed out, things like you're doing plans and things like that. We've already had our views come through. People can see their voice reflected in that and hear that understanding, and that might make a smoother plan and an easier process for council.
Just maybe following on from that is the again the unitary plan, where we did have workshops out to the side, and I have to say I attended one of those because we had a fixed view with my Feds hat on. As you know, I'm a Feds man as well. But after actually listening to the position, it was actually clear where council staff were actually trying to get with it. It was actually like with an over-allocated aquifer. And so we actually saw where they were trying to put some restrictions and to make sure that aquifer was available to everybody. So just an example where it's not all about us learning and you learning, it's just listening to everybody's position clearly. And maybe the other thing is that some of those workshops, if some of our urban colleagues could actually attend too, just understand just the farmers actually talking and the growers talking at those meetings.
That's awesome. Thank you. And last question, Mayor Brown.
Not really a question, it's a sort of a thing. As we've heard from you guys and the ones before, and the next one's coming up, conversations are at the heart of solutions. You know, if we sort of back off apart from each other, you've got to talk to somebody on their patch. I speak as a visitor out there and as a landholder in Pukekohe, and the landholder in the next discussion as well, but conversations are at the heart of everything. You got to meet people and listen to both sides, and you've just said that. Well, you got to understand you better, and you got to understand some of the difficulties, because right at the moment in an election, of course, there's a lot of uniquely simplistic solutions to complicated problems being thrown around at the moment. So complicated problems, and beware of simplistic solutions, but you have to have conversations. This has been good, and I appreciate what you do, and I feel comfortable about all of these various things, including the next one coming out, which I actually found kicked off, the small business one. If I'm elected next time again, I will definitely be, and I get very few bits of power as a mayor, but I can actually say we're going to have these bloody groups talking, and anyone who's sat through today, unfortunately the gutter press aren't here, but they will realise that this is very positive. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. There are no more questions. I'll once again acknowledge your work, and please pass our thanks on to all panel members. I think it's clearly a really important voice, and as you say, Alan, it's not a new thing. It's been the panel's been around for some time, so we really appreciate your views and honesty, but also the collaboration with council staff and council elected members. So, kia ora.
And we rural folk, we love the city centre. We have a beer after the wrap every time down at the Occidental. So, yeah, lovely place, the city centre.
Yes, and I do travel in by train and go home with OMJ over here.
Thank you. Right, I just need to quickly do an extension of time. Councillor Turner would like to move. I'd like to.
Yes, I'll move.
Second. All those in favour? Aye. And Councillor Turner, are you wanting to?
Yeah, I'll just introduce the Small Business Advisory Panel and Mr. Stewart, and I see Ms. Roger is online. The panel's only been going for sort of half this term. It's been growing work in progress. Really enjoyed the meetings and all the people and all the help we've been getting. And I remember the Mayor coming into the first one and looking around and saying, boy, this is the most diverse panel in council, and it just goes to prove the businesses across everybody. And most of the people in the city are employed by a business or run one. So it's an important panel. Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor Turner.
Thanks, Councillor Turner. Yeah, it is a new panel. It's only been going since the middle of last year. Thanks to the Mayor for the initiative. It's great. I think that more business advocacy here. It's fantastic to see the range of the panels. But at the end of the day, everyone needs a job, and businesses provide jobs, which is the product of our economy, and small businesses are part of that. So I think we do have a really good range of people, and I think a lot of that been a lot of work to get the right people on the bus. I don't think we've really got the right people till probably the last 1 or 2 meetings that are really engaged. So really only getting started. So it's not with only starting from the middle of last year in terms of the deliverables. But there are a good range of people. Businesses, geographically, a lot of things don't have a lot in common. Retailers don't necessarily have a lot in common with my businesses, so it is quite hard to grab everyone in from different parts of Auckland. But I think there's enough good voices there to provide some constructive sort of advisory work for the council. What's our role? Everyone there, as far as I'm concerned, I'm here for community service. I'm busy with my businesses, making money, doing my thing is how do we help the process, how do we help the council be better, and how do we help for other businesses both growth and the council's cost structure is a big impact on us and our success, and how well you do. If you do a really good job, it helps us either whether we grow or survive within that process. So we're a good practical sounding board. I don't think it's really probably been used as much, certainly not on the governing board. We've seen the Mayor, Ken's put a lot of work in. We're only really finding our way at this stage, but it's something that, and I think it's probably going to be more valuable for your staff, because at the end of the day, they're driving a lot of the cost entries. One area we tried to add some value for, writing to the Minister, was really just seeing some of the inefficiency with compliance costs of central government regulation and not enough empowerment. So you end up with legal processes which cost the council a lot of money rather than just being able to vary the fine process. So we lobbied with a letter to central government where it hasn't any impact, just to really get something it should save money and get things efficiently and hopefully drive the right behaviours for those that are transgressing, if anything comes of it. If it continues the next term, I just hope we get used, hope we add some value, because that's really what it's about. We won't get any value out of it. It's really what the council gets out of the value of it, and also that we have enough of a range. So that's it from me. Rochette, have you anything to add? Just me online by the looks of it. So, questions, if there are any.
Thank you so much, and thanks for, it's a bit of a trial term, but there's no doubt that I think whatever council is here next will want it to continue because of what you've just said, the benefits of it. Also having Rob next to you, I think, not that the only thing small business interacts with the council is regulatory and compliance, but I think it's a really good step if you can be meeting and going, this works, this doesn't, we know we have to do this, how can we make it better? And you've got someone really good that's listening to every conversation as well.
Sorry, I had to thank Victoria and Rob. They've helped corral us.
Yeah, so maybe I'll go to questions. And probably Mayor Brown.
Well, it's good to see Robert there because he's the interface between the council and business, and that when you said, Dean, it's the two-way street. We want to hear from you, and you got to hear from us. And Robert's stuck in the middle and has done good work in very difficult face between rules from Wellington, behaviours in Auckland, pressures from business, and the need to try and implement rules which we haven't had much say in putting in place in the first place. And so I've got to know closer just the pressure that's on our regulatory staff. And it's difficult, I've got to say, for them, and I'm sure it's useful for you to hear both sides, because he regulates sales of all sorts of things, from restaurants to milk bars to pubs to whatever, and we have rules and sub-rules and bylaws put on us and on the public that are bloody hard to put in place sometimes. And I think it's quite, I hope, do you find it useful to hear both sides there, Robert?
Yeah, through the chair, I think it's been great. Like I said, it's only 5 meetings that we've had, but in that we've been able to actually start, sounding, almost using the panel as a sounding board. And like Dean said, off the back of that, even using the ability to use the panel to write to ministers around changing and promoting, I guess, streamlining regulatory is really powerful, because it comes from the business. So it really is coming from the heart of the constituents. So I think it's really powerful.
Actually, I don't think we've particularly highlighted all day long the power of those committees as authors of letters to ministers and others. Whereas if you just write it on your own, you're just some grumpy turd who they're going to ignore. But, a council advisory group that covers such a range of, when you've got hair salons there, you're a very mechanically orientated contractor. There's people in all those things there, but there's rules on every one of them. And when they get a letter from that, if you just get a letter from a single person complaining about one thing, it's one thing. But if a minister gets a letter from an advisory panel that covers 1/3 of New Zealand, 40% of the GDP, and set up by the largest council in the country, has some grunt. And so I'm pretty sure you make sure, Victoria, that they do that, because they're powerful writing tools. Okay, thanks very much for the work you do.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Turner?
Just wanted to say thanks to everybody again. I know it's only been a half-term thing, but I think it can flesh out. So thanks heaps, Dean. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Easy. Well, thank you very much for coming in. Sorry we've taken a long time, but appreciate all you've done so far, and I'm sure you'll be back next term as well. Thank you. Thank you. Right. We'll go back to Councillor Ferry to lead off. So we've had a mover and a seconder, and we will have your speaking turn, I guess, Councillor Ferry, as closing comments.
Kia ora. Thank you, and I won't take very long because we have spent a really good length of time, 3 hours on this, and I really appreciate everybody's time and attention to this mahi, which hopefully you'll agree has added real value for us this term, and makes the case for it to continue next term. I just wanted to let people know that one of the things that Victoria and I have been talking about for next term is the possibility, in terms of that loop closing aspect of the work, to see if advisory panel views can be incorporated somehow in agenda reports. So that the agenda report has has those impact sections. Yeah, and that could be a good way to capture that. Obviously, not every agenda report is going to be appropriate. Think about all those plan change things we just passed. You're probably not going to put one on there, but particularly for the big policy pieces, I think it would be really useful for us to look at that. So it might not look quite like that, but we have been talking about how that might be able to be captured in the future. And that will also give them visibility of how their views are being presented to us, and then they can see us discuss them and how they might have made a change during debate and resolutions as well. Thank you very much to, obviously, all the panel members, most of whom are no longer with us, which is completely understandable, particularly to those who have done 6 years, which is an amazing effort. The panels this term have done, and you'll see there's an attachment which spits out a whole lot of stats, and I had it open before, but I might have lost it now. Oh, no, there it is. And it shows that a huge amount of work has been done, and I want to acknowledge that that work is largely enabled by 1 and a bit staff members. Victoria and Millie supports her. And then in terms of the coordination and the support of all the panel members, picking them, all of that kind of stuff. And then we've had John Kingy able to support as well, and then staff who have volunteered their time above and beyond to support specific panels too. So the undertaking of the organisation in helping these panels to operate is huge. So that's attachment B, if anyone's looking for it, in the attachments. And that has also required probably a lot more time from the panel members themselves, both in sessions, but also, you know, reading and prep and thinking things through and talking with their own communities, than perhaps some of them had anticipated when they first put their hands up. And we have had a few people who've had to step away during the term and other people who've stepped in, and that's all good. The contribution that they make, I think you've heard today from them, certainly the co-chairs, is that they feel that it's well worth it, but it's still significant, and so I think that needs to be acknowledged. Finally, I thought I wanted to pick up on something that was said, I think by Teresa from the Rainbow panel. Trust is built by action, and I thought that was a really useful reflection on what we should consider when we take advice from the advisory panels, and indeed more broadly from our community, from mana whenua, from local boards, all of that kind of thing, is that we do generally have a bit of a crisis in democracy where there is a low level of trust in civic institutions and in politicians. Trust is built by action, and so it is that how we take what we hear, we listen genuinely and authentically, and then we turn that into action or change. So I'll just leave members with that, and thank you, Chair, for allotting such a generous amount of time to this today. I really appreciate it. Good luck to those who are back next term to support panels. I thoroughly recommend it as a little extra job to do on top of your other councillor work. I have absolutely loved it. But just remember that trust is built by action. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor Ferry. And yes, I'm not sure we would have done it justice if it was a shorter amount of time, but we have spent a lot of time, so I hope there isn't any more debate. Right, all those in favour? Any opposed? No, thank you. Right, on to item, we might just have a quick 5-minute break, stretch your legs, bathroom break, and
Need
be
an
back.
extension of time?
We've already done. So 4:05 back here, please.